What's up, guys? What's up? Welcome back to the podcast. Welcome back to Tomboy Official. On this podcast, we talk about sexuality, gender, all sorts of LGBTQ plus topics, and a little bit of cultural topics. Just, things that come up. Today I wanted to talk about a question that someone I was speaking with asked me. I'm trying to find the question. So they were saying, like, they made a comment that my parents accept. Okay, so I'm just going to read it. It says, and your parents do accept that you are a lesbian. How does this work with their religion? And so, first of all, I don't think I've ever, I don't usually identify myself as a lesbian, like, specifically. I mean, I don't mind if people say that I am, but that to me feels a little bit narrow in the scope of what I actually do in my life. Like, even on dating apps, I don't put lesbian, but I mean, I'm not straight, so as long as they don't put straight, I'm probably not gonna be, like, they kind of get the picture, that I'm not straight, so that's fine. Unless I'm dating somebody, I feel like it kind of doesn't really matter how I identify or anything. But let me see. When it comes to answering that question, because this was, like, written down, I don't know what I wrote specifically. Basically, I don't know what my parents have as their own beliefs about LGBT stuff. Like, they're not oblivious, pretty much. I mean, they're smart, intelligent people. They're not, like, oblivious or completely blind, but they don't seem to really know anything about the culture or how to really talk about it. Like, there's no, like, overt conversation, like, about, like, hey, like, who are you dating? Or, like, did you meet anybody? Or are you on dating apps? Or what do you do when you go to Pride? Like, there's none of that. I mean, my folks in general don't even really talk about sexuality. I probably mentioned on here, my mom will talk about weddings. She'll speak about weddings. And she kind of jokes all the time and says that, she wants to send me and my sister to Zimbabwe so that our aunties or some other family members can set us up with African men. Then my dad always comments, like, that's not how that works. And she brings it up a lot, but it's kind of like something that I've told her that I don't really find funny. And I remember, I don't know what holiday it was where my mom was joking around about that, and then my sister, I think I did a whole recording on it. Like, my sister was kind of like, saying, like, that, like, I wouldn't be interested or whatever. Like, I made that comment kind of like once, and then my mom, like, kept on. And then I think my sister was kind of just like, dude, it's not funny, or, like, whatever. Like, she didn't really, like, I don't know, it wasn't, like, a long, like, it didn't get, like, blown up, but it's, like, I was actually surprised, too, that she brought it up more than once. Like, that was the first time she ever, like, mentioned it, but then she brought it up more than once, after that time, so I was kind of like, God, like, why is she always, like, making these stupid comments? She thinks it's funny, but, I remember, I think I mentioned this before too, that, like, there was, like, on occasion, like, my mom likes to send, like, little Venmos during holidays. So she sent me like a Venmo with a little picture of a little car, like, you know, the Venmo that has the picture of the little car and like the pride flag on it. It's like a little car with a pride flag on it and like a little hamster or something in the car. And she sent that to me, whatever the holiday was that was after the holiday that I had been home, or the time that I had been at the house. And she was trying to help me with the struts on the back of my car, because I needed some, like, the struts I screwed up and took both of them off. And so, you know, the back of my car is a hatch and it's got the whole window attached, so I can't pop the trunk and then hold it up with one hand while I'm like trying to fix the struts to put the new struts, because the hydraulic or whatever that thing is on the pressure in them, you know, it needs to like keep the whole thing from falling down. And so I asked her to help me either like adjusting the struts, because the new ones were like half in, or like they were completely off, or no, I needed to like take them off and put the new ones in. And then she offered to hold the car from the, you know, to hold up the back of the car. Like, I drive an old Eclipse, and so if you remember how those are, like when you lift up the back, like the trunk, the whole hatch, like the whole window comes up, and then you just look straight forward and you can see like through the whole car. Like, you can see the back seat, you can see the front seats, you can see the dashboard and through the front windshield. And then so basically the way my car, like, there's not a lot of decoration in there, but like there's a, you know, next to the steering wheel on the right side, there's a vent, one of the vents for the air conditioning, like the fan, and you can just manually like pull that out, because it's not attached to any like wiring or anything. It's just the vents that you can just like adjust, and so you can pull that out. And I put one of those small like pride flags in there, and then just like crammed it like so it's like hanging down. So basically over the front of the whole front of like my sound system, air conditioning controls and all that, there's like a little pride flag hanging over them, like kind of attached through the vent, so it doesn't like fly out. Because I initially had it in the back seat, kind of like on the back of the backseat chairs, but I had it taped onto the part that covers where the trunk would be. There's like a space between the headrest of the back seat and the actual window itself, and then that space is covered by like this corkboard thing. And then I tried to tape it on there, but because of the fabric it didn't really stick, and then when I would open my windows it would blow all over the place. And so I was like, I can't risk this little thing flying out the window, like some little rainbow flag flying out the window when I'm driving my car. And so I basically just crammed it under the vent in the front. I started doing that every Pride month, and then I just kind of kept it, you know. So I think I was in town in June, and then my mom was helping me hold up the back of the car, and the back of the hatch, not the whole freaking car, but she was like holding up the window while I was trying to like attach stuff. And then she looked straight through the car, you know, and there's this indicator light that you know, on the front dash, like on the driver like console side, like, you know how they have those lights on there. And so there's one that's green when the car door is open, and so because we had the back open, like that little light was on there, and she was like asking me or something like, is your car on, or like is your car locked, or like she didn't know what the little light was. And I was just like, oh, it's because we have the window open. But right next to the light, like inches over, is that little pride flag. Like, it's literally not even like 6 inches to the right of that light. It's just like right, the next thing you would see is like right there. And so she didn't really know what it was, but I know she saw the flag because she saw the freaking light. It's like, you're asking me about the light? I think she asked me, what's that, or something, and she was like pointing, and I'm like, what's what? Like, I thought she was gonna ask me about the flag, but she asked me about the light or something, and I was like, oh. And then like shortly after that time, like, I couldn't fix what I needed with the car that day with my mom, and then shortly after that time, that's when she sent me the Venmo with the little flag on it. So that's kind of what I was talking about. That's a long-winded explanation, but let me see. And I was also saying during the last month, no, I think it was during 4th of July, because it was one of the last times I was like talking to my dad. He was at the house, and something was in our house, either like a magazine from the mail or something. There was something that looked like the flag, like a flag, like the pride flag. It was like those colors, and then my dad made a comment like, "Oh, I thought that was the LGBT flag," or like, "Doesn't this look like the LGBT flag," or something like that. And I was kind of surprised he even knew LGBT. Like, I was like, oh, like, I didn't even know he knew like that term. So I'm like, okay, he's like, they know something. They know what that flag represents, at least, and I have it in my car, and my mom acknowledged, I guess, unless she just randomly sent me like a Venmo that has like a pride flag in it. But she sent me that. Excuse me. And then, like, yeah, my dad doesn't really talk about marriage or dating or grandkids or anything. He's really into fashion, and I remember when Queer Eye was on Bravo, my brother made a comment, and he was like, "I don't know any straight guy who would watch the show." And then my dad was like, "Oh, I like the show because they talk about men's fashion, and he's really into like suits and Italian suits and like fashion and like all that kind of stuff." That's pretty much the extent of what my parents bring up about anything related to like sexuality or marriage, or LGBT anything. And I have quite a few friends that I've known since a young age that identify as LGBT. And let me see. I was saying that, and we all went to church together, and my parents were never... The only thing, actually, that I remember my parents saying was, I made a comment about one of my friends, when, I think he was kind of like a little, I don't know, he wasn't like too... He wasn't... I mean, he's not gay, but he's just kind of friendly with other guys. Like, there was a period of time when I was like younger where my friends, we'd be walking across the street, and I remember we were like trying to enroll in college classes or something. Dude, we were not that young then, but basically my friend's grandpa was in town, so my friend came with his grandpa. He picked me up, and then I was gonna help him enroll in like a college class, and I think I was gonna show him where the admissions building was or something. And he didn't call first. He just like showed up and was like, "Hey, I need to go here, like, can you come?" And then so I went with him, and I think another friend came with us, and me and the grandpa were kind of like walking across the street with my other two guy friends, and one of my guy friends kind of like slapped the butt of my other guy friend, and they were like chasing each other across the street kind of. And then we must have been like 18, 19 years old or something. And then I remember mentioning that, or how that friend was reacting with my other friends, because they were kind of like, a little, like, back then, I was very into this, like, religion, and so, like, we never were really, like, talking too much about sexuality and all this kind of stuff. Like, it was kind of one of those taboo subjects. And then I remember asking my parents, like, not asking my parents, but we were like driving from church or to church or something, and I remember mentioning like, so and so, whenever we're like out, like hanging out, he's always like smacking this other friend on the butt and like pretending to like kiss guys or like whatever. It was like something along those lines, like some innocent thing. And then my dad made this comment where he was just like, like, people, I don't remember exactly how he said it, but somewhere along the lines of people should be careful with stuff like that, because then they'll get like really involved or something like that. Like, kind of like if they get more into the experiences, then the next thing they know, they're gonna be identifying that way or whatever. I don't really know. I don't really know exactly like what he said, but it was somewhere along those lines of like, he better be careful or something. But it was never like anything about like do it, don't do it. Like, it was just kind of like a caution, that's kind of like the most I ever heard my parents say about like their beliefs about things like that. Like, I mean, they're really reserved about those types of topics, honestly. And then, yeah, so I was saying I have a few friends that I knew from church, since I was in like 3rd grade and 5th grade and 7th grade, like specific friends that also their parents went to church with my parents. And I think those parents, the ones who are still living, they're still, not like they don't call each other on the phone and stuff, but like, if they have like a housewarming or like something, like they're aware of each other for the most part. Like, and I'm still kind of friends with those people, so like, that are my age, or that I knew, like the kids of those parents, that know my parents, and they've always been welcome in our house. My parents were never like, yeah, I mean, I think the most I ever heard my mom say was like, how do they know? They're too young, like, they're too young to like know. But I never heard them say like, don't hang out with that friend, don't let them in your room, don't go out with them, don't do anything with them, don't, they were never like telling me not to hang out with them or be with them or anything. And they were never like, I don't know if that person can come over to the house or whatever. Like, they would hang out, sleep over, like, like my parents were never like concerned on it. Like, I know my mom's got a bit of a hang up when my dad's not home. She doesn't let any guys in the house. So if I have like a guy friend that I want to have come over, if she's at the house, that's not going to happen. And these days, like, we don't really have a lot of guests anyway. She doesn't seem to want guests over at the house like at all because of COVID, which I get. But it's like, yeah, she's totally been isolating, and she doesn't really have guests. My parents don't really have guests. Like, I grew up kind of having guests like every weekend and stuff, so like, it's kind of weird. They just kind of keep to themselves more nowadays. But yeah, they were always welcome. They were never like mean to my friends or like anything like that. Like, I remember my mom, was pretty strict with like, you can't have boys in your room, you can't have guys in your room. She's always like overly trying to get involved. And I remember the last time, like when I was at like a wedding in Georgia, and there were like I was like sitting there, and like she was like standing like a couple chairs lengths away, and like 2 or 3 guys came up and were like asking me kind of like, is that your dad or whatever, or like, so and so, is that your dad, or like, who's your uncle, or like whatever, like kind of like, because you never know who's related to who at these like African weddings. Like, you meet people that are like cousins of sisters of cousins or whatever, and like people who know of you or of them, but you've maybe never met. So a lot of times when you meet people, you're like asking like, who are your relatives that are here, who are you related to kind of see like, are we related, are you my cousin, like, are we not even related at all, are you like the friend of like some other random person and you don't even like know anybody here, like, are we related? And so they come up and they start talking to me, and I kind of notice my mom in the background kind of like coming closer to like kind of like to guard me, or like to kind of like get involved, and then she kind of heard the conversation that we were cousins or whatever, and I was just like, oh yeah, that's my dad, like he takes the photos, and like I was kind of saying like, that's my dad, like that's who he is or whatever. And then I remember, I've mentioned this before too, where my mom, when I was like at I think I was at like a Marie Callender's or Olive Garden or something. And you know how sometimes it's like peak hours and you're like waiting for a table because you didn't get a reservation. So it was like an afternoon after church, and I met my parents there because they went straight from church, and I went after church to meet them. And we get there, and we were yeah, we were gonna meet each other. Yeah, we met, and we were kind of like waiting like in the little waiting area, like by the, you know, that front like reception desk or whatever. And then there was like a waiter that was like a tall, thin, kind of like handsome black guy. And I remember like I was just like daydreaming, like looking in his direction. And then my mom was like, she kind of like, she didn't like slap me like hard or anything, but she kind of like, you know, gave me like a little like slap tap kind of thing, like on the, probably like the back of my shoulder, arm or something. And she was just like, stop it, you know. And I was like, stop what? She was like, stop looking at that guy. And I was like, I wasn't, like, I was just like daydreaming. And I was like annoyed and like mad because I literally wasn't looking at him and whatever. And then my dad made some kind of comment like, you know, like you should like don't do that because like they're not even gonna want to get married or something like that. Like they're not even, you know, like he was kind of commenting like just leave it alone. And I was just kind of like, I clearly wasn't even looking at him. Like I didn't even notice him there. Like honestly, I was daydreaming. I was like looking in his direction, just like spacing out. But things like that. And then I think they know that I go to gay bars and clubs. Like, I don't really know what they know about it. Like, they don't, like, research it or, like, look things up or anything. I mean, most of my friends are LGBT people. Sometimes I send, you know, my family, just, like, especially if it's, like, a ticketed show or something, I'll send them, like, little short video clips or pictures. Like I don't really post stuff online like that. Like I'm not like on Instagram just like posting a bunch of like stuff too much. But like when I go to stuff, you know, I'll post it for my family or whatever, like Pride or, you know, parades or whatever, you know. But this stuff I won't send. Like if there's like go-go dancers or like some like super sexualized situation, I'm probably not gonna send it to my parents or my family. But let me see. And then yeah, like when I'm, you know, you know how you have YouTube on, depending on what kind of TV you have, like how there's like apps where you can go on YouTube. And like I know like before I got COVID, me and my mom were watching Sopranos almost every night, and like I have this series through YouTube. And so, like, I purchased it on YouTube, and so, I remember her, you know, like, whenever I'm logging in, she's kind of, like, standing there, and it's, like, you know, thumbnails of stuff that's being recommended to me, stuff that I've recently watched, you know, it's, like, you'll have stuff on there, like, Mac Ingemy, and, like, we're having gay sex podcast with Ashley Gavin, and, like, Queer Eye, and, like, Drag Race, and, like, all kind. It's, like, how could you not look at that every day and like know that like clearly, you know, like I mean they're seeing this, you know, like they're not stupid, you know, like they don't talk about it, but they're not like stupid, they're not blind. And then they also just like don't talk about it. You know, I keep the pride flag in my car. I'm pretty sure they see it in there. They don't talk about that either. There's a lot that we just kind of don't talk about. I can't remember if when I went to visit my friend Easter weekend in Vegas, if I told them I was going for Black Pride or not. I can't really recall if I specifically told them that's why I was going, or if I was going for Easter. I might have kind of hid that a little bit. The last time when I went to San Diego Black Pride, I don't recall if I told them that I was going for Black Pride, or like if I had some other friends. And my sister, I don't know if she identifies as straight, but she has a boyfriend, and they've been dating for like, I don't know how long, probably like 4 years or something, 6 years, I don't know, a pretty lengthy time. He's been to at least 3 Christmases before COVID, so maybe like 5 years or 6 years now. So and my mom kind of comments about like, if this guy is gonna marry my sister, and I like him, I got nothing against him, and then my dad has never really made a comment, but I remember my mom being like super shocked when like my sister initially asked if she could have a friend over, and then it turned out she was like, oh, it's my boyfriend. And then my mom is the only one who seems to comment on that kind of stuff, and she seems pretty opinionated. Like, she's like, I'm never gonna like anybody you guys date. It's kind of like a weird attitude she has. Like, she doesn't want us, like, she wants us to like get married soon, but like to these men, these Black African men, like, I've got nothing against Black African men, I just don't really know any, and they aren't relatives to me anyways. And then I don't know any who aren't relatives, and I don't know what she thinks would make them, just that's the only thing she wants us to marry is Black African men. Like my sister's boyfriend is a Caucasian guy, and she's a little like not unhappy about it, but she's like, for her to make comments like, you guys need to marry Black African men, and she's dating like a white guy, I mean, it's kind of like weird shit, like, to me that's weird. But she doesn't really see anything wrong with the comment she makes, even though she thinks she's joking. But I think there's truth to those kind of jokes. That's kind of my opinion, and she's always like saying that kind of stuff anyways. But I never remember having any like arguments or anything about like LGBT stuff. I mean, my brother came, my brother doesn't really participate in like even family events, like, weddings or like anything. Like, he doesn't really like care for, being too involved with either side of the family too much, other than like our immediate family. And then we basically, he did come from Oakland to San Francisco to, during one of the Pride festivals to just say hey, and like we grabbed snacks or dinner real quick. It was like a casual, quick, weird dinner, and then he just left. So he was there like an hour or two. And then, my sister I think we're gonna go in 2023 to San Francisco Pride. And I might stay with her a little bit in Santa Cruz. I'll see. But yeah, I was thinking too, I think I could probably watch Queer Eye with my parents. That might be on their level. That's probably the only queer content I could probably watch with them where it would be comfortable for all of us. But otherwise, the L Word, Queer as Folk, things like that, there's like no way we were gonna really watch that. And then I remember I've recorded on here too, yeah, I remember posting, I talked about it on here too, where I had the YouTube channel, like when I was starting Tomboy Official, but I think I put like a YouTube video up first or something, and then I made like I think I had like one video on there, because my mom commented on it, and I don't know how she found it. Like, maybe I have it under my name, but it must have been recommended to her, or she was searching my name or something, I don't even know, and it came up as my name, or no, I don't know how she got on there, honestly, but it must have been recommended to her. That's the only thing I can think, or she searched my name and that came up. But either way, yeah, when I was starting Tomboy Official, I actually wanted to make videos on YouTube, and I think I posted like 2 or 3, and then my mom was like commenting on my video. Like, she liked and commented on it, like, this is really gonna be helpful for some people or something like that. I was like, oh my god, like, go away. And so I actually didn't post on YouTube, and that's why I went a podcast route, because I was like, well, I'm just chatting anyways. But I kind of was actually going to be more on camera, and I wasn't on camera because my mom, I was like, I don't want my mom listening to this, or any of this, like that or this. So that was weird. That was like years ago. And yeah, and so yeah, I just found all that interesting, because I don't know, I've probably laid it all out before, but not all. I was thinking about it, and I was like, yeah, I've never really thought about, how my parents, with their religion and their beliefs and their culture, have ever, related to anything related to LGBT stuff or whatever. Like, I remember them saying, like, about one of my trans friends, because they knew this friend before they identified as trans, and I remember them saying, like, they were, I think me or my sister saw the person, it was maybe, like, after we'd seen the person or whatever, and my mom was, like, asking, like, how's this person, how's that person, how's this person, like, because we had, like, recently caught up with a bunch of people or something, and then my mom mentioned that person, and then me and my sister were both, like, correcting to the name that they use now, and, like, the pronouns and stuff, and then she's like, oh, like, I'm old, I forgot, like, I'm still learning, that's kind of what she said. Like, she didn't really, like, say much more than that, so I don't really freaking know. It's hard to really, like, speculate on things when you don't talk directly about stuff. Like, me and my folks have stuff that we talk about that are, like, safe topics, and we're a little cautious about just about anything else. All of us are kind of sensitive, and then, we kind of don't always know how to talk to one another about stuff, and we all are pretty opinionated, but we don't really see the world the same. And I think we all try to be open-minded in our own ways, but there are some closed-minded parts about my parents, but then also I try not to be closed-minded and, like, reject them because they're closed-minded. Like, they can be closed-minded about stuff, but it's not, like, it's just, like, their opinions. It's not really something that, like, in my personal experience, it doesn't, like, at the moment as I'm thinking of it, I don't think it, like, directly affects me in a negative way. I mean, when I do meet them, I do feel a little bit sexually repressed. Like, I don't date people. I don't go out with people. I don't talk about dating. I don't, I'm very careful with shows that I might, like, put on in the living room. Like, last night I was in my room watching, reruns of, like, Queer as Folk, just, like, unwinding and, like, just waiting till, I guess I was waiting to see, like, what time, because, like, I think they ordered dinner, and so I was, like, waiting to see, like, when dinner was gonna arrive, and I was, like, just trying to find random stuff that, like, I didn't mind if I just, like, turned it off because I'd seen it, and I was like, I haven't watched, like, gay shows in a while, so, I have Queer as Folk on YouTube as well, and so I just, from time to time, watch it over and over again. It's kind of like a classic. I like the L Word, too. I like the L Word, as well, but I have Queer as Folk. I don't think I have the L Word. I mean, I've watched it multiple times on, like, pirated shows and, like, at screenings at, like, lesbian bars and stuff like that, but I haven't, like, gone to it. I mean, I haven't gone to it. I haven't bought it, I don't think. I think I did subscribe to Showtime for a period of time while it was screening. I think I used to watch The Shy and that on Showtime, but I don't think I have Showtime anymore. So I did watch it the first time through, and then I remember the initial season of The L Word used to be on Netflix, and then they eventually took it off after like Pride Month, like I think it was 2021 Pride Month or 2020 Pride Month. After June, they kind of like took it off of Netflix. But I remember hearing about the L Word, and I used to like avoid gay content altogether. Like I was pretty self-repressed for obvious reasons, because of the religion I grew up in. And like when I'm thinking of it, it's like my folks don't really seem as strict with us as adults. I mean, they are a little like weird about like dating and like stuff like that. It's usually my mom. Like I think she just feels awkward about it, and I'm kind of like, it just makes it awkward when you're with somebody who's like super like weird talking about certain stuff, and you're just like, she just addresses it in this weird like awkward way. And I don't really address it in any way, because I'm like, there is nothing I can like be open about in this conversation when you're just like acting weird. But I don't know, I leave it. But I don't know, part of me feels like, it's kind of like they're kind of not open-minded, and then part of me is like, yeah, they're kind of like open-minded enough, it's not like they're so closed-minded that they're like, but it's just, it's still not comfortable. I can't like openly talk to them even about dating, like even if I was dating like a straight guy, cis straight guy, I don't even think I would tell them. Like I'm not dating one, but if I was, I don't think I would tell them. Like I don't think I've ever told them about anybody I've ever had a crush on. I don't think they've ever known anything about me dating. I think I mentioned once at my grandma's funeral weekend or whatever. I think I mentioned once that because I was sitting talking with my cousin and my mom at the kitchen table, and then my mom and my cousin were kind of both just like, I walked in the room and they're like, like, yeah, how old are you? And you're not married yet, you're not dating anybody yet. And I'm just like, who says I'm not dating? Like, I was like, who says I'm not dating anybody? I was like, I kind of date everybody, but I'm not like specifically like too like involved with like any one person at this time. I was like, but I date a lot actually. And then I remember my mom being surprised by that, and then my cousin was like, and then I remember I said to my cousin, I don't know, I probably shouldn't have said this, but I was like, what about you? You're older than I am, and you're not married either, and he kind of like got up and kind of left. But I was just like, they were kind of like picking on me and trying to have fun with it, but I was kind of just like not in the mood. I was just like, bro, like, you're not married either, so like, y'all can all shut it. But I don't know, it was just kind of one of those awkward conversations. It's like, if you're gonna make an awkward conversation, like sometimes people can like dish it, that's just what they want to do, is just dish it. And then they didn't really know the situation, like they didn't know that I dated people. There was just a lot that they just like didn't know, because they were just like assuming things. And so I mean, I wonder though, because it's kind of weird, because like I do have a pretty active social life, and they do know a lot about it, a little bit about it. Like I'll tell them when I get tickets to like certain events, or like when I go to Pride, I'll tell them like stuff like that. Like I'll tell them, but I don't tell them like every single detail of every single thing. So I just wonder if they just think that I just really like Pride festivals, or what, or festivals in general. I don't really know we don't really openly talk about this kind of stuff, so I kind of just have to like deduct, or if that's the right word, deduct from what I gather of what they comment on and what they think. I don't really think my parents really, I don't know if they care or know or what they would do or say. I don't really know. Like, we don't even talk about my sister dating. It's just kind of like the last time my mom brought it up, I kind of got annoyed because I was just like, dude, this guy might be my brother-in-law sometime, like, I don't really know. Like, he might be my brother-in-law. Like, I'm not trying to, like, like, get bad blood with anybody or start having, like, negative, opinions of people. Like, I don't know him. He never did anything to me, and I think he treats my sister right, even though I think they get annoyed with one another. But, I mean, like, I don't think they're bad for each other as far as I know, but I don't really know. I mean, I'm happy for her. I don't really talk to her much about it, but, I'm happy for her. Like, she seems happy, so that's cool. It's good to see. If she didn't seem happy, that would be different, but she seems happy. Just like all of us, though, I think people do have questions like, is this the right person? Are these things that are kind of like, that we kind of maybe bicker about or don't get along on, is that like a deal breaker? I think those are healthy conversations to have. Like, no relationship's going to be completely perfect. No one gets on one another's nerves. But, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's all I really had to say. It was just, that was kind of on my mind for a lot of today because I had to, like, bring it up, and then I was like, it could be content for the podcast. But yeah, that's kind of how it is lately with my family and how it has been in the past. If in case I never laid it out, I think I have before, though. This is kind of like a repeat, but maybe I mentioned different stuff, or maybe I left out a bunch of stuff. I don't know, but I don't remember anybody directly really asking me like that before, like how my parents' religion really impacts, me with, like, not being a straight person. And I don't know if it impacts me. It is impacting, like, it's anxiety provoking to, think about what would happen if we were, like, more directly having these conversations. But I don't think that they're not aware, and I don't think that they're homophobic necessarily. Like, I don't think that they would, like, prefer any of their kids to be LGBT, but I also don't think they care that much. But they also do seem to be kind of hung up about talking about sexuality and gender and dating and all kinds of stuff like that. So I think just sexuality in general isn't really, like, one of the topics that they like to discuss or think about or anything. And then I don't mind talking about it, just I don't want to talk about it with them necessarily. I don't really like talking about that kind of stuff with people who are uncomfortable talking about it. So, I don't know if I'm an empath. I think I am. I really do pick up on other people's energy, and not necessarily always in, like, a paranoid kind of way, but just, like, I pick up on other people's, like, kind of, like, if they're anxious, I can tell, I can tell when I'm in the room, and, like, if somebody's, like, worried or something, I can tell. Like, I think I've talked about it before, about how annoyed I get that, when I'm leaving, going to San Diego or something, and then I'll get in the car, and then my mom will, like, stand at the door and watch me as I'm, like, backing out the driveway, and, like, she just seems so worried, and she's always like, call me when you get there, and she'll just wait till I, like, drive, like, down the street. So what I usually have been doing is, like, I would pack the car beforehand and just, like, pack up the car, before I actually start saying goodbye. So she's not, like, watching me pack up and watching me get in the car. And it's just like, oh my God. Like, it's such a, like, awkward experience to have, where it's just like, I'm an adult and I feel like it just feels like a puppy, like, waiting at the door, and you're just like that they're just like waiting, you're just like leaving them behind. That's kind of like the feeling that's just like, oh my god, like leave me alone, like go away. Like, I appreciate that you care, I love that you care, I know that you love me and you care, but why are you so worried? Like, why are you so worried? Like, and I think I'd be easier to worry about. You know, I keep to myself, I have weird hobbies, I go out with friends and do all kinds of nonsense all over the United States. You know, like, I like weed, I like alcohol, I don't know if they know any of that. Like, they know a little bit about alcohol. They know that I know something about weed because I have an LLC with a weed name. And, you know, I don't really know. I don't really know what they... I really don't know too much about their opinions about certain stuff. You know, we never really developed kind of like conversations about like asking each other personal questions. I do that with my friends, but with my folks, we just don't really talk about, you know, our lives too much. Like, we talk somewhat, but we don't talk about, like, you know, we just don't talk about like every single thing. Like, we talk about stuff, but not like every single thing. Dating, sexuality, that kind of stuff just isn't something that we really talk about. I was never really raised talking about that kind of stuff with my parents. They never really had a sex talk with any of us, but I was always like pretty sexually curious, and so I figured out everything I need to figure out without them. Like, I didn't really need them to talk about it. And that's fine, you know, but I know that they're against pornography and like nudity in movies and all sorts of stuff in movies. I remember my mom mentioning that, like, when she went to Vegas, not that, I don't know how long ago, it was like years ago, probably like a couple decades ago, she went, and I think it was her, my sister, maybe my dad, but she was with my sister, and she said that there were, you know, it's Vegas, so there were like flyers on the ground and in certain places where she was that had like nude women on them and stuff, and she said that she would be embarrassed if my brother had been there with her. And it's like, why would you be embarrassed if my brother's there? Like, he's a guy and you're the mother, so why would you be embarrassed that there's like pictures of naked women? I don't know. And I do remember this one I think it was like Women's Health magazine. I think my sister used to get Women's Health, but like she didn't like live here anymore, but like she used to get like the magazine or something. And I would come home on weekends and stuff, and I remember being in the kitchen looking, you know, I would flip through magazines and stuff. Like, there's nothing like weird about that, is there? I don't think you're like breaching mail or anything when it's like, it's already like an open magazine, and it's not like anything that anybody would need any privacy on. It's like a magazine you could pick up on any like health, you know, at like a grocery store. Like, they sell them everywhere, I think. So it's not like, you know, weird. I don't feel like I was like breaching her privacy or anything. But that specific episode had like, or specific one had women in it, obviously pictures of women that were like nude, and it was like a body positive kind of thing about like different shapes of bodies and stuff. And I think they were mostly covered by like their arms or whatever, but like you could tell that they were naked. And there was like a whole segment on it, and then it was like multiple pages. So I remember being like in the kitchen flipping through this book, and my mom was either in the living room or like near the kitchen, but not next to me. And then I remember flipping through the book, mentioning like, oh, like I didn't expect to see all these like naked women or something. And there were a bunch of naked women. She kind of like came over and started looking at the pages when I was like flipping the pages, and that was an awkward experience. And then I remember making a comment like, just kind of like, why would they put all these like naked women in here? I didn't like come here to like look at this, you know. Like, I wasn't like turned off by it, but I was just kind of like, not really trying to, like, you know, be involved with that, with my mother, like, standing there in the kitchen looking at naked women. That it was just a little weird, because it was just like I wasn't expecting it to be like so many pages. Like, I feel like, I don't know how many pages, but I feel like there were at least 10 pages, if not like almost 20 pages, because I was flipping for a little bit. I could be way wrong, maybe it's like 3 pages, but like it was a whole, like, that was the purpose of I think it was like the main article, so it was like probably the longest article or something. But I don't know, that's probably the majority of things. And I remember being like younger, and you know, like I used to watch like sermons on TV and stuff, and then I remember my mom mentioning, you know, she was like we were waiting in the school parking lot for something, and it was me and my mom in the car, and there were quite a few days where it was me and my mom in the car for like an hour, and I would just like talk to her, and and I remember somehow talking about like how I thought masturbation was wrong because I heard it on some sermon or something, and then like she never like commented on it. And whatever the conversations we had before that conversation seemed like they weren't really directly about like birds and the bees kind of conversations or anything, but whatever that conversation was probably the closest we've ever had to talking about like having a sex talk or anything like that. And it wasn't even I don't think it was a sex talk. I don't know. And it's kind of weird that I remember the comment I made about masturbation, and I don't remember what we were talking about before, because I feel like there were like 3 or 4 days when we were having those kind of conversations, but I don't remember all the details of what those conversations were like at all. But I don't know. I think that's all I got, but you know, I'm probably gonna forget that I recorded this one and then record something exactly like it later on some other day. So I don't know, my life doesn't have like way too many experiences in some areas, and then in other areas it's like, oh my gosh. But yeah, like, you know, I'm not trying to like put my folks on blast or anything, but it's like, yeah, like, I think, you know, they're all right when it comes to like their religion. They're really religious, but they're not like outwardly like very opinionated about politics and stuff like that. Like, they do say a little bit like, oh, you need to be a Democrat, like that kind of thing, but it's like they don't really I don't know, they're from a different time, nearly from a different planet. Like, it's just, you know, at the end of the day, we're all humans. We all want the same things, you know. Like, you know, I try to be accepting of them, even though they confuse me. I'm pretty sure I confuse them just as much, if not more, than they confuse me. I'm pretty sure they were just as equally, if not more, confused by me. So, that's that for now. I'm gonna get on with my evening and see if I need to eat dinner soon, because I'm starving. And then with that, I'm done. So thanks for listening.